welcome to Dr. Amber Thornton's Know and Grow podcast, where you're never alone in navigating life's biggest moments and toughest lessons. Join me, Dr. Amber Thornton, clinical psychologist, mother of two, as I explore motherhood, parenting, relationships, career, mental health, and the ongoing journey of personal evolution. No, it doesn't stop. These conversations will absolutely make you laugh, may make you cry, will get you to reflect, but more importantly, you'll grow and we'll get to grow together. So I'm glad you're here, and I hope that you'll come back. Tune in weekly for informative, thought-provoking, inspiring conversations right here with me. Hey y'all. Ooh, it's been a while. Oh my gosh. um I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say because this is so interesting to me. And I think I want to take this first episode really to just reorient myself to you, because I know some of you have been listening to me on podcast format for a very long time. Some of you might be completely new here, and all of that is fine. And so I'm really excited to be here and to just share myself in a different way with you. And I feel like this first episode of Dr. Amber's Know and Grow podcast really should just be an explanation of sorts, explaining where I've been, what I've been up to, what has happened with Balanced Working Mama, and where I want to go and where I want to take this and the journey that I'm hoping that we can go on together. So I'm glad you're here. Thank you for being here. And let's just start with saying this. I am constantly in this process with myself of growing and evolving and changing. And I also realize that I am one who really tends to resist change a lot. It is a very bad habit of mine, and it's something that I know about myself very well. I am not one who likes to do things differently. I am not the friend that's, ooh, new things, love it. I'm not that friend, guys. I'm not the one who likes spontaneity, even though I know it's good for me. I am not one who embraces change well. I will resist it. I will resist it until my hands are bleeding because I've been holding on to the rope for so long, trying to keep this thing that I thought was for me. I don't know. I am one who will resist change even to my detriment. And with knowing that about myself, what I will share today is that for a really long time, I knew that I needed to be shifting in terms of the work that I was working on, in terms of the ways that I was supporting people, in terms of the things that I was creating, in terms of how I was showing up on my podcast, the Balanced Working Mama podcast. I just felt like there's something happening here where it's helpful, it's supportive, it's good for people, people are enjoying it, but there's something in me that's not completely satisfied. There's something here that's not working. And I resisted that urge and that change for a very long time. So let's backtrack a bit because again, some of you are completely new. I feel like most of you know me fairly well. And so let's backtrack a little bit. For those of you who may be listening to this podcast for the very first time, um, I'm Dr. Amber. I'm a clinical psychologist. I've been a psychologist for about 14 years now. Um, I'm a mom. I have two kids. I'm a wife. I live in DC. I'm from Ohio. All these things make me who I am, and so much more, right? And you'll learn that throughout this podcast. Um, in 2020, during the pandemic, y'all, I decided that I wanted and needed, I felt really called to support women and mothers in this new way. And I called it Balanced Working Mama. And in doing that, oh man, I grew so much. And that's why there's always this soft spot for me for Balanced Working Mama. And partly why it took me so long to shift away from that. And it's that Balanced Working Mama was just everything. Like I just get emotional thinking about it. And y'all, I'm not crying today. There will be moments where I might cry on this podcast, but we're not crying today, okay? But I will just say that Balanced Working Mama will always have a spot in my heart. It was my baby, and it allowed me to um, create in ways I never thought I could. It allowed me to expand myself and realize that I wanted things that I never thought I wanted before, just in terms of how I get to show up as a psychologist, how I get to support people in this field of psychology and as a psychologist. And also it helped me to practice this confidence and this intuition that I have as a mother, because I, through Balanced Working Mama, was being very clear about I want to be this type of mother. I want to prioritize myself. I want to prioritize my needs. I want to break some generational curses and some narratives of motherhood that didn't serve my mother, that didn't serve my grandmother, that didn't serve me, and that I know will not serve my children. I want to do things differently, and I want to help other women do it too. That was really the premise and the idea of Balanced Working Mama, and we did that for about 3 years. We did it. We did it. We did such a good job. We did that through the podcast. We did that through content, of course, on my website and on Instagram. But I think the biggest way that we did it was through the Balanced Working Mama community. And many of you listening were part of that community. And for those of you who are unfamiliar, the Balanced Working Mama community was a private community, virtual community for moms who wanted the same things that I just said that I wanted. You know, I wanted this freedom in motherhood to explore yourself and to know yourself and to not sacrifice yourself and to um, just be human, not always be perfect and not feel these pressures to do everything. I wanted that. And these women that joined this community wanted that too. And we supported each other in that. And it was amazing. Amazing. And there's still parts of me today that misses that. I miss that, the community that we had. I miss many of the women in that community. I still stay in touch with some of them, but some of them I've lost connection with a bit. You know, that happens. Um, while all these amazing things were happening, all these amazing connections were happening for women, and the beautiful thing too is like they were connecting with one another in the community, which was so dope to see. And just it then became this thing where it was like I'm not the only one supporting. I'm not the only one being supportive. They're supporting each other, because there were days in the community where maybe I didn't have capacity, or life happens and I couldn't show up as much, but the women got to know one another and were supporting one another. And that made me so joyful. It was beautiful. Um, while all those amazing things were happening in the background for me, secretly, I was so discontent. I was so unhappy. I was not satisfied, because for whatever reason I had this end goal in mind with regard to what I wanted Balanced Working Mama to be. And every single day, despite the beautiful things that were happening, the amazing work that was happening, the support that was being cultivated, and the connection and the community that was being built, I couldn't see it. I literally couldn't see that shit. And I would constantly just feel so defeated and so dissatisfied, so disappointed. And it's embarrassing to even say this. And this is how you know this podcast is going to be different, because I am ready to go on this exploration where I don't have to be only the expert. I get to also be the human who is going through these experiences and wanting to share some of the things that I've learned, because I know it's not only helpful for me and my healing process and, the process for me. I still want to be the very best mother I can be. I still want to be the best partner I can be. But there's all these things that I need to process and explore. And this is just one example of that. What do you do when you find yourself in a place where you have this idea or this vision in mind, and it's beautiful on the surface to everyone else, and it's helpful and it's supportive, and it's just, but for you, it's like, this is not it. This is not working. This is not what I want. And I am depressed because it's not where I want it to be. I lived like that for at least 6 to 7 months while this community was open, just feeling like, it's not where I want it to be. It's not going where I want it to go. I literally couldn't see the beauty happening in front of my eyes because I was so dissatisfied. At the end of 2022, I made the decision, after a full year of the Balanced Working Mama community being open, I made the decision to close the community. And it was a shock to those in the community because no one knew how unhappy I was. And I also didn't fully understand why I was so unhappy. But I just knew that if this keeps going, I will never feel good. And I also will eventually break the amazing things happening in here because I can't feel it. This dissatisfaction and this unhappiness was starting to bleed into my ability to show up as a mom and as a parent, as a wife and a partner, because when I wasn't happy about the things I was creating or trying to cultivate, I was then also unhappy at home. And so it was like, okay, Amber, there's a crossroads here, and you got to make a decision. Do you jump and explore something else? Or do you stay on this path and keep trying to make this work and become even more unhappy? And let me tell you, the decision sounds simple, but I was so afraid to jump and explore something different because I had put so much time, so much energy, so much passion, I poured my everything into Balanced Working Mama and into that community, into that podcast. I was so afraid to stop because I didn't know what was going to be on the other side of it. And so it was almost like, well, I'll choose to just continue to be unhappy because I know what this is. I'm familiar with this. I've been doing this for the last 2 years. I'm okay. I can keep it up versus let's prioritize your mental health, your well-being, your happiness, your presence with your family, and explore and be okay with the uncertainty and the lack of clarity. Let's be okay with that. That was the hardest decision I had made in a very long time, to let my community know that I was closing the community. And then from there, decided to take a mini hiatus from being online, period, because I was like broken. And all the while, nobody knew. It was like no one fully understood what was going on other than like my husband and a few close friends. So making the decision to close the community was the first step in me realizing that Balanced Working Mama was coming to an end. And it was painful. It was like, you all, I that was my first time grieving the loss of something that wasn't a person. It was grieving the loss of something that I had created and I had loved so much and I had poured so much into. And it felt like a breakup. I felt so sad. Literally think of like your worst breakup, or even, and I'm hesitant to say this, but like a death. It felt like a death, and I had to step away and go through the process of grief and then recovery and recuperation to now come to be here today. And so here we are. So that is what happened with Balanced Working Mama. Despite the beauty and the joy that initially I felt and the amazing, oh my gosh, like I cannot even, I can't fully articulate the impact that it had. And so that's why this first episode, I really wanted to make space for Balanced Working Mama, because the impact that it had for the women who participated and who listened to the podcast and who believed in it was great, beyond great. I don't have the word to articulate that. And so Balanced Working Mama will forever be a soft spot in my heart, and it led me to where I am now today. Um, Uncoupling myself from Balanced Working Mama took me, it took me some courage to realize that in life, there are going to be things that are only for seasons. And that is a lesson that I know, but this experience let me know it, like for real. I felt it. It was like a very visceral, here is this lesson that I need you to understand. That there are some things in life that you will create, or some relationships that you have, or some experiences that you have where you think it'll be forever. You think it'll last. You think it's supposed to be there forever. But in reality, it's a season. And Balanced Working Mama was a beautiful, remarkable, impactful season of my life and so many other women's lives. And now life has told me it's time to explore this new season and move on to the next part of life. And so that is where this shift has come. I decided to stay with the same podcast host, not deleting all 100 something of the Balanced Working Mama podcast episodes, because really this is just a continuation. It's a continuation in transformation that just happens with all of us, including you listening. That part of you that you often still think about, or you want to return to, or that part of you that you think is gone, is hasn't it didn't die necessarily. Maybe it evolved. And I think this is what this is for me. Balanced Working Mama podcast evolved into Dr. Amber's Know and Grow podcast, because I am now in a place where I am ready to explore and integrate these parts of me that is a psychologist, is an expert in many ways. Y'all, I just wrote a book, and we'll talk about the book, y'all. Not maybe not today, but trust me, many of these episodes will be about the book that will be released in June of 2024, A Parent's Guide to Self-Regulation. If you follow me on Instagram, you know a ton about that book already, and you probably have already pre-ordered it, which I appreciate. I'm an expert in many ways. I'm the eldest daughter of my family. And so that already gives me this responsibility and this sense of wisdom. But I'm also, y'all, I'm literally a human just like you, trying to figure this shit out. There are so many things I don't know. There's so many things I'm wanting to learn. There's so many things I need to explore. And in so many ways, I need to begin to say, I don't know. I don't have the answers to that. There might be ways where I just can't help you or other people, because I'm still growing, I'm still learning. And so Dr. Amber's Know and Grow podcast reflects this part of me, these two different parts that I know so much, and yet there's still so much more that I'm learning, because I'm still growing myself. And I want to integrate that and that be my process. And in many respects, the book that I just wrote, A Parent's Guide to Self-Regulation, reflects that process too. You know, I am a parent who has absolutely struggled with being dysregulated as a parent. I have yelled, I have snapped, I have been mean, I have been rude, all because I have been overstimulated, overwhelmed, frustrated. irritated and have had the biggest challenge controlling the humongous feelings I feel. And again, it's embarrassing to admit that as a person who is very public online, as a person who is a mental health professional. Like, I'm not perfect. And yet, there's still learning and growing happening for me. And there's still some things I can share with you too. So I really am excited for that book to just be a resource for people, because the book has amazing tools and a framework for how to think about dysregulation and parenting, but also many moments of personal reflection from myself about me walking through this experience too. That's where I'm at in life right now. That's where I'm at. I'm exploring, I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm integrating all of these parts of me that I'm not an expert in everything, but I want to be open and transparent about the ways that I'm growing, about the ways that I'm learning in parenting, in motherhood, as a daughter, as a mother, as a wife, I don't know, all the things. I'm growing, I'm learning, and I want to share that with you. Ooh, okay. So how are we doing? um, you all, what I really hope that you take away from this is that you also are learning and growing in so many ways, and also you have made so much progress. You've come so far. You're not the same person you were last year. You're not the same person you were 2 years ago. You're not the same person you were in your 20s, unless you are still in your 20s, but you still aren't the same person you were yesterday. We are all growing, we are learning, we're shifting, and life wants us to explore. And this is also me partly sharing my explorations of life with you, and um, hoping that you'll come on the journey with me. So let's talk about what to expect with this podcast a little bit. This is me taking a risk, doing something new, uncoupling myself from something that I thought I would be coupled with for the rest of my career. But also taking a risk and being more vulnerable and trying some things that like low key scare me, because they say, like, if you're not doing something that scares you, then are you doing it? All the while, I also believe that like life is scary enough, so you don't got to be scaring yourself every day. But there is something to like challenge yourself, take a risk, do something, right? And so here's a few things that I want to be trying in this podcast. Another caveat, y'all, my husband tells me that I talk in circles a lot. And so I'm very conscious of that right now. Like I do talk in circles. Like I literally just bounced from 3 ideas with the intent of circling back to all of them. And so if this gets confusing for you, just know I'm working on not talking so circularly. Now I forgot. Okay. Anyways, so I'm trying to explore some things, some new interest of mine, and just be more transparent, be more authentic, and hopeful that you will be able to take something away as you walk through your own journey of living in life and learning lessons and all of that. We will be talking about parenthood. We will be talking about motherhood. We will be talking about partnership. We will be talking about mental health. We will be talking about career, personal evolution, all of that, because all of it makes up the life and the journey that we're on. I am in this space right now in my life where I am really exploring this new thing that brings me a lot of joy. And I want to bring a piece of that onto the podcast. And again, I'm hesitant because there's this thing in my head that's like, girl, not everybody likes that. Not everybody cares about that. But guess what? This podcast is called Dr. Amber Thornton's Know and Grow podcast. And so this is a reflection of me. And so we're going to sprinkle it in because it's what I like, but also it's forcing me to grow and be more authentic about who I am. So you all, let me tell you about astrology. If you follow me online, you've already gotten a sense that I'm really into it. I've gotten into it so much more this last year. And you guys, I finally have a hobby. It's astrology, like that. Oh my God. So what I would like to do, try it out at least. I want to start every episode with kind of giving you a glimpse of what I'm paying attention to with regard to astrology, the thing that I'm thinking about with regard to what's happening in the stars. And this is not me trying to forecast for you, because I am not there yet in my astrology journey, but just how I'm thinking about it and how it's landing in my life, and maybe how you should be thinking about it too, or how you could be thinking about it. So what I'll say today, and again, in the next episode, this will probably start our episode, but I recently got my 2024 astrology birth chart reading. I did this for the very first time in 2023, and it was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. And that moment was really the thing that was like, yo, you love astrology, get into it. I've always loved astrology, y'all. Quick story. When I was 16, I worked at a public library in my hometown of Troutwood, Ohio. And when the library was slow, I literally would go to the astrology section in the library, and I would sit in the aisle and read the astrology books. I've been into this for 20 years, and I'm still into it today, and I'm finally getting back to it, but in a much deeper way. I've gotten into birth charts, I've gotten into houses and the planets and aspects, and it's just fun. So got my reading for 2024, and y'all, 2024 actually might be my year. There's going to be some challenges, some ups and downs, but just with regard to some of the things I want to prioritize, my reading said 2024 might be my fucking year. Also, if y'all don't know me very well, I say bad words often. Okay? And I'm not changing that about myself. The podcast will say it's not for children. So if you are listening out loud and there's children around, just know I might say something that is not appropriate for your child. So yes, astrology. We're going to start every episode with just like a little sneak peek of what I'm thinking about with regard to astrology, and just how I'm reflecting, and something you could be thinking about and considering too. Then from there, we'll move on to whatever is on my mind for that day, as far as the topics that we discussed. And then lastly, I want to close out every episode with this mindful. So this is called mindful affirmations. And I really like this because affirmations, I'll be honest, is not really something that I've been into for forever. But what I will say is that in my most recent astrology reading for the 2024, it was brought to my attention that there is something that is wanting and needing me to push into this new realm of life where I get more disciplined about my spiritual practices, and also being more authentic and allowing those things to show up differently. And so this is part of that for me. I'm wanting to close out each episode. Um, Hold on, you all. Okay, I am back. First podcast, of course there's going to be some technical difficulties, and speaking of which, we are in a Mercury retrograde. So here we go. Um so some technical difficulties. My iPad storage filled up in the middle of this episode, so I had to go clear some of that, and that's now going to be something on my to-do list, clearing out my iPad storage so that it won't stop me in the middle of an episode while I'm trying to tell y'all about my spirituality. Like, how dare the universe? What? Come on now. But either way, Mercury retrograde, it happens, and that just means that we need to take some time to slow down and reflect, and also just look at and recalibrate what we're doing and how we're doing things. And so I'll take that into account for sure. Thank you, universe, for that message. So let's close out this episode, you all. I appreciate you all for listening to me today. Please let me know what you think about this episode. I would love for you to take a moment after we finish, go leave me a review specifically about this first episode. Let me know what you liked. Let me know what you didn't like, but still give me a 5-star rating so that other people know that you want to listen again. Let me know in the review that you leave, whether it's on YouTube, because y'all, this is on YouTube. This will be on YouTube, but also on whatever podcasting app you listen to. Let me know how you felt about this first episode. I want that feedback from you. And I hope that this will be the start of a beautiful journey that we get to go on together. So let's pick today's affirmation. I'm shuffling the deck a little bit because I want this to be what the tone of our week will look like and feel like and be like. All right, I'm gonna just pull off the top. Ooh, okay. So this card says, I make the best of every moment, every day, and every situation I am faced with. I make the best of every moment, every day, and every situation I am faced with. I receive that and I will place that away as something that I want to take with me this week. I make the best of every moment, every day, and every situation I am faced with. And I think just stopping and taking that in and thinking about what does that mean for my life, it honestly reminds me of what literally just happened. Literally just had a technological hiccup in the middle of something that is important to me, and I could have taken that as like, oh my gosh, this is not going to be good now. It's not going to be as good as I want it to be, yada yada, all these bad things. But instead, me making the best of this moment in this situation is realizing, hey, there's some things we got to take into account. And thank you for that opportunity to give me the lesson on something I need to prioritize for next time. Today, I'm going to make the best of every day, every moment, every situation that I'm faced with, regardless of how negative I think it might be, because maybe it's not. Maybe it's an opportunity to learn something new. All right, you all. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for going on this journey with me. Thank you for taking this risk with me. I'm really excited for what will come with this, with our podcast, with this new connection that we will make. And I will talk to you soon. Thank you so much for listening to Dr. Amber's Know and Grow podcast. I love that you're here. I love that we're learning together. We're growing together. We're navigating all these things together. We're really in this together. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave me a 5-star rating and review. That is so important because it helps this podcast grow. And it also gives me some feedback on how it's landing for you. Please share this podcast with someone that you love or someone that you know. And don't forget to connect with me on social media at Dr. Amber Thornton. I'll talk to you soon.